Welcome to Adelberg, at the location of the Kloosterschule where Johannes Kepler started his further education on October 16, 1584. This may well have been his first view on the site. Probably he entered through this gate. Unfortunately, there's nothing left of the school and the cloister buildings, except for the knowledge that it was here. It was a Catholic monastery until the Lutherans of Württemberg took control and turned it into a school. And this was very much driven by the need to develop a new Lutheran clergy. As said, the whole cloister had been destroyed or demolished. Over there you see the Ulrichskapelle. It was already there when Johannes studied here, but didn't belong to the cloister buildings. It served as a church for the locals. And there was the school. A small sign reminds us of his time here. It functions as a school from 1565 to 1630 and burned down with many other cloister buildings in 1646. After successfully passing the competitive Landesexamen in Stuttgart, as Kepler did, students could continue their education here, on a stipendium of the Duchy of Württemberg. And that meant a commitment to a career in the clergy of Württemberg, unless officially released. And this wall that surrounded the property with a few gates is the only significant part remaining of that time. Not much is known about Kepler's time here in Adelberg. The monks were gone, but the discipline remained. His principal needs, like food and lodging, including a kind of uniform, were provided. The pupils had to follow a tight schedule of praying and studying. The curriculum involved Greek and Hebrew, in good Lutheran spirit, to be able to read the Holy Word in its most original forms. Probably also arithmetics and some astronomy. He is believed to first have heard about Aristotle and Ptolemy here at Adelberg. Nevertheless, his primary focus was God, and the lessons on theological doctrines and morality were probably keeping his mind more busy than the stars and the planets. And this can be nicely illustrated by something he wrote later in one of his reflections on his life. In theology, he writes about himself in third person. He was taught at the very beginning about predestination, and he came across Luther's opinion about free will. And strangely enough, at the age of 13, so that must have been 1585 when he was here, he wrote to Tübingen, the university that is, asking that the discussion about predestination be sent to him. Clearly, already at this age, Johannes was struggling with the friction between what was preached and what he considered to be just and logical. And apparently, he expressed these thoughts in the classroom too, as he writes that someone said, annoyed, "Bagant, hast du auch temptations on predestination?" Another quote, he also did not consider that a general condemnation was proposed to the nations, moved by the contemplation of divine mercy. Kepler poetically expressed that he could not accept that a divine, merciful God would blindly condemn whole nations, like all those that lived before Christ. On these themes, Lutherans and Calvinists had different opinion, and on some, such as the interpretation of the Eucharist, the Lord's Supper, is the bread and wine really the body and blood of Christ, or should that Bible text be seen as more symbolic? Lutheran Kepler found the Calvinist symbolic interpretation more reasonable, and that brought him into all kinds of troubles in that polarizing conflict. He also described how he was plagued by all kinds of health issues, by times forcing him to lay down. Such a frail but sharp and brilliant, inquisitive boy must have been quite an occurrence amidst his fellow pupils. But that boy did very well academically, and already 2 years later, in 1586, he was allowed to move on to the higher seminary of Maulbronn. the final preparation for university. Stay tuned.